If you have tried to lose weight by cutting calories and doing hours of cardio without seeing your midsection budge, you are fighting a hidden biological mechanism. Conventional advice assumes an energy deficit burns fat evenly across the body. However, the deep layer of fat beneath your abdominal wall operates under entirely different rules. This is visceral fat, and it functions as an active, aggressive endocrine organ that actively defends its existence. When you restrict calories aggressively, your body triggers a survival cascade that slows your metabolism, spikes hunger hormones, and locks this internal fat firmly in place. To erase visceral fat quickly and permanently, you must move past the simplistic math of calories in versus calories out and focus entirely on changing your internal biochemical environment. By activating specific cellular signals, you can force this stubborn tissue to release its grip and work with your biology rather than against it. Visceral fat differs fundamentally from subcutaneous fat, the soft, pinchable layer just beneath your skin that serves as a harmless energy cushion. Visceral fat lives deep inside your abdominal cavity, packed tightly around your liver, pancreas, intestines, and heart. Because it sits beneath your abdominal muscles, its venous drainage goes directly into the portal vein, carrying inflammatory compounds straight to your liver. This disrupts the liver's ability to process nutrients and balance blood sugar. Visceral fat is highly metabolically active, constantly secreting hormones and specialized proteins. As it expands, its cells become starved for oxygen, suffer cellular stress, rupture, and trigger a massive systemic inflammatory response. This state of perpetual, low-grade internal inflammation is the primary driver behind coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cognitive decline, and systemic metabolic dysfunction. Cutting food intake drastically to lose this fat backfires due to a defense mechanism called metabolic adaptation. When calories drop too low, your thyroid hormones shift, sympathetic nervous system activity declines, and your resting metabolic rate plummets to conserve energy. Simultaneously, your brain reduces your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, meaning you subconsciously move and fidget less throughout the day. At the exact same time your energy expenditure falls, your endocrine system ramps up production of the hunger hormone ghrelin and suppresses leptin, the hormone responsible for signaling fullness. This biological shift creates intense food cravings and an overwhelming preoccupation with eating, making long-term compliance impossible. When you attempt to force fat loss through raw deprivation, you create a frustrating weight loss plateau. The moment you return to a normal way of eating, your suppressed metabolism rapidly stores those extra calories as a protective cushion, depositing them straight back into the visceral fat stores around your internal organs. To bypass this metabolic trap, you must eliminate chronic cellular inflammation, which acts as a protective shield for visceral fat. When visceral fat deposits expand past a specific threshold, they lose their healthy blood supply, leading to localized cellular death. This distress signals the immune system to flood the area, causing the fat tissue to secrete massive amounts of destructive proteins called inflammatory cytokines, most notably tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6. Once released into the bloodstream, these proteins damage blood vessels and disrupt the delicate hormone receptors on the surface of your cells. This creates a vicious feedback loop where the presence of visceral fat creates systemic inflammation, and that inflammation damages the cellular machinery required to burn fat efficiently. Chronic inflammation essentially locks the doors to your internal fat stores. To break this cycle and allow your body to mobilize this deep abdominal fat, you must systematically lower these circulating cytokines, clearing the biochemical noise so fat-burning hormones can reach the tissue and signal the release of stored fatty acids into the bloodstream to be oxidized. The most effective way to downregulate this inflammatory cascade is by introducing nutrient-dense foods carrying highly potent anti-inflammatory compounds. Walnuts are exceptionally effective because they are rich in alpha linolenic acid, a plant based omega 3 fatty acid that acts directly on cell membranes to reduce the production of inflammatory signaling molecules. Consuming cold water fatty fish such as wild caught salmon, sardines, and mackerel introduces massive amounts of preformed omega 3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Inside the body, these marine based fats displace pro inflammatory fats within the cellular membranes of your immune cells, altering their gene expression so they stop producing excess tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6. Beyond healthy fats, vibrant polyphenol rich foods are vital for quenching internal cellular fire. Dark, leafy greens like spinach and kale are loaded with powerful antioxidants that neutralize oxidative stress at the mitochondrial level. High quality green tea introduces epigallocatechin gallate, a highly active polyphenol that inhibits the genetic pathways that generate inflammatory cytokines. Berries, including blueberries and raspberries, are packed with anthocyanins, which switch off the primary master switch of inflammation in our cells, restoring healthy systemic communication and freeing up visceral fat stores to be safely burned for daily energy. The second major biological mechanism controlling visceral fat storage is insulin resistance, an endocrine dysfunction that acts as a direct structural support system for abdominal fat. Whenever you consume carbohydrates and sugars, your digestive tract breaks them down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. In response, your pancreas releases the master storage hormone known as insulin, which binds to cellular receptors to let glucose enter and be used for immediate energy. However, when your diet consistently floods your system with refined carbohydrates, processed sugars, and constant snacks, your insulin levels remain chronically elevated. Over time, your cells become completely overwhelmed by this constant hormone bombardment and downregulate their receptors, effectively ignoring insulin's signals. This state is known as insulin resistance. Because the cells refuse to take in glucose, your blood sugar levels remain high, forcing your pancreas to pump out even more insulin to compensate. This creates a metabolic disaster because insulin is a highly potent anti-lipolytic hormone, meaning its presence completely halts the body's ability to break down and burn stored body fat. High circulating insulin levels act as a one-way valve, continuously forcing extra nutrients into storage while legally prohibiting your cells from releasing fat. Visceral fat cells are exceptionally sensitive to insulin storage signals, making your deep abdominal cavity the preferred dumping ground for every extra molecule of glucose in your blood. Reversing this process requires a deliberate nutritional approach designed to restore cellular insulin sensitivity, allowing your circulating insulin levels to drop so your body can access its deep fat stores. One of the most scientifically validated foods for achieving this is broccoli sprouts, which contain an incredibly high concentration of a compound called glucoraphanin. When chewed or digested, this compound converts into sulforaphane, a deeply powerful molecule that activates the NRF2 genetic pathway inside your cells. The NRF2 pathway controls your body's master antioxidant defenses, reducing cellular stress within the liver and pancreas, which directly restores the sensitivity of insulin receptors so your body requires far less of the hormone to balance blood sugar. Consuming dark chocolate with a cacao content of 85% or higher provides a concentrated dose of flavonols, which improve the health of the endothelial lining of blood vessels, enhancing blood flow and allowing insulin to deliver glucose to muscle cells far more efficiently. Berries also play a vital role here, as their unique combination of structural fiber and polyphenols slows down the absorption of carbohydrates in the gut, preventing sharp spikes in blood glucose and reducing the subsequent demand on the pancreas. Incorporating unpasteurized fermented foods like traditional kimchi and raw sauerkraut introduces millions of beneficial bacteria into your microbiome. These live cultures break down dietary fiber into short chain fatty acids like acetate and butyrate, which travel to the liver and muscles, signaling those tissues to increase their insulin receptor density and improving your systemic glucose clearance. Once you have lowered chronic inflammation and restored insulin sensitivity, you must activate the third major biological mechanism, the cellular fat burning signaling system. Inside every cell in your body live tiny, power generating structures called mitochondria, which are responsible for taking fat molecules and converting them into usable cellular energy through fat oxidation. To maximize this process and specifically target the dense tissue of visceral fat, you must stimulate two master metabolic regulators: adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, known as AMPK, and sirtuin 1, known as SIRT1. AMPK acts as your body's internal fuel sensor. It monitors energy levels within your cells, and when it senses that cellular energy is low, it immediately shuts down energy storing processes and flips on major energy producing pathways. When AMPK is activated, it triggers mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning it signals your cells to build brand new, highly efficient mitochondria, turning your body into an internal furnace. Simultaneously, AMPK works in tandem with SIRT1, an enzyme closely tied to cellular repair and longevity. Together, this powerful biochemical duo alters your genetic expression, forcing your cells to accelerate the breakdown of complex stored lipids into free fatty acids, transporting them directly into the newly formed mitochondria to be burned off as heat and energy, thereby melting away the deep, insulating layers of visceral fat from around your organs. A phenomenal and highly versatile superfood targeting these fat burning signaling pathways is high quality extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is far more than just a source of monounsaturated fat. It is a complex, unrefined plant extract containing an abundance of unique phenolic compounds, most notably oleocanthal and oleuropein. These specific polyphenols directly stimulate the activation of AMPK within your liver and fat cells, turning on the molecular signals required for fat oxidation without requiring severe caloric deprivation. This illustrates beautifully why the quality of your food matters just as much as the quantity, and why equal calories can produce completely different metabolic outcomes inside the human body. If you consume 200 calories of highly refined soybean oil, you flood your system with pro inflammatory omega 6 fatty acids that disrupt cellular membranes, trigger insulin resistance, to remain highly elevated for hours after the workout is complete. For beginners, the secret is a gradual and safe progression, starting with consistent daily walking at a brisk pace, slowly adding short intervals of higher intensity as your cardiovascular system adapts, always remembering that long-term consistency is infinitely more valuable than sporadic perfection. To put these powerful biological concepts into a practical, actionable routine, you can follow a structured 8-week protocol designed to systematically eliminate visceral fat by targeting all three internal mechanisms. For your daily nutrition strategy, focus on consuming 3 structured meals balanced with high-quality proteins, abundant non-starchy vegetables, and healthy anti-inflammatory fats, while eliminating all snacking between meals to allow your insulin levels to drop completely back to baseline. Every single day, ensure you are consuming at least 2 tablespoons of raw extra virgin olive oil poured over your food, a handful of raw walnuts, a cup of fresh berries, and a generous serving of cruciferous vegetables, ideally including broccoli sprouts. 3 to 4 times per week, make cold water fatty fish like wild salmon or sardines the centerpiece of your evening meal, and replace all sugary beverages with high-quality brewed green tea. For your weekly exercise strategy, commit to 45 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic movement, such as brisk walking or cycling, 4 days per week, utilizing the talk test to ensure you stay in the proper metabolic zone. Twice a week, perform a 15-minute high-intensity interval session, alternating between 30 seconds of maximal effort and 1 minute of easy recovery. The final, yet equally critical pillar of this protocol is your recovery and sleep strategy. Chronically poor sleep and high stress levels cause your adrenal glands to continuously pump out the hormone cortisol. Cortisol acts as a direct signal for your body to accumulate visceral fat, while simultaneously increasing your cravings for refined carbohydrates. To prevent this, prioritize 7 to 8 hours of high quality sleep every single night, establishing a calming, screen free evening routine to lower your nervous system activation before bed. Track your progress not by looking at the standard bathroom scale, which cannot differentiate between muscle, water, and fat, but by using a simple fabric tape measure around your natural waistline directly at the level of your belly button, tracking the steady physical reduction of your internal visceral fat week after week. To successfully eliminate visceral fat for good, we must stop viewing weight loss as a simple battle of caloric restriction and start treating it as a precise science of cellular signaling and hormone optimization. By understanding that deep abdominal fat is an active inflammatory endocrine tissue, we can see exactly why old-fashioned dieting strategies fail and why a comprehensive, multi-layered approach is required. By systematically down-regulating chronic systemic inflammation with omega-3 fatty acids and powerful dietary polyphenols, we clear the biochemical pathways for fat mobilization. By restoring cellular insulin sensitivity through sulforaphane, fermented foods, and structured eating windows, we lower our master storage hormone and unlock our internal energy reserves. By intentionally activating the AMPK and SIRT1 pathways with high-quality extra virgin olive oil and targeted physical movement, we stimulate our mitochondria to rapidly oxidize free fatty acids, turning our body into an efficient fat-burning machine. Combining these advanced nutritional changes with consistent, heart rate targeted exercise, restorative sleep, and low stress levels creates an internal biological environment where visceral fat simply cannot survive. This protocol is not a temporary restrictive diet designed for a quick fix. It is a sustainable, scientifically validated framework that restores your core metabolic health, protects your internal organs from chronic disease, and builds a strong, vibrant, and resilient body for the rest of your life.